let's take a typical WebGIS lifecycle. It starts often with deploying your WebGIS, like if you're deploying ArcGIS Enterprise. And then, whether you're in online or in enterprise, you expand the scope of your GIS to cover individuals, teams, organizations that need to work together. But at the end of the day, you're trying to harness the power of your GIS to solve everyday problems. And that's really bringing it all together. And there's a need to automate that. There's a need to find your answers quicker and find ways to innovate. So automation is no longer an option. It's pretty critical. So when you talk about automation, if let's say you're an ArcGIS Enterprise, how can you automate your complete deployment? If you want to automate the deployment of a full stack on a single machine, then you have Enterprise Builder. It's an easy-to-use experience. If you have a need to deploy ArcGIS Enterprise in the public cloud, you have various options: builders, CloudFormation templates, CLI options, the DSC option on Azure, for example. These are all options which are native experiences in this world. And then going beyond, you can deploy the whole thing anywhere, the whole stack anywhere, using infrastructure as code, like Chef as a way to deploy that. So as you can see, there are various ways to automate your deployment. And then once you get it up and running, what are the various workflows that require automation? The first one is org administration. Here, you manage your users and groups, you set the privileges, and oftentimes you hook up your org administration in your WebGIS to Active Directory in the way things are organized there, because you want that reflected. And then once you have that running, then it's the deployment and complete automation of all your workflows. Your workflows could be creation of web maps. It could be bringing your data layers to life, enriching them, for example, all the way through automating your analysis, and maybe even creating a network of WebGIS, a trusted network to collaborate and work together. And then going beyond, it's enterprise integration, which is integrating with external systems. Those could be enterprise systems or mobile systems, like we'll see in an example soon today. So in today's example, we are going to take a few scenarios, not automate anything and everything, but a few scenarios that come into play. And for that, I'd like to take a case, an emergency event, where time is critical and the need to collaborate is pretty essential. The recent event was the Thomas Fire. It happened a few months ago here in Southern California. It was the largest fire in California history, 440 square miles. The point here is there is a need to have agencies collaborate together through a central entity like a state-level agency, for example, creating an online ArcGIS online organization like the Thomas Fire organization, and hooking them up together. And then, of course, you can see how they can integrate and expand beyond that. But to go through this scenario, I'd like to simulate a scenario. I'd like to go invite Atma and Mani, my colleague, to show us what you can do with it.
Thank you, Jay. As soon as a state agency gets activated, the administrator sets up an org on ArcGIS Online. It looks pretty basic. There are no users, groups, or content. Instead of configuring this manually, the administrator fires off a collection of Python scripts authored with ArcGIS API for Python. Here is my first script. This goes ahead and creates groups, users, and even styles and configures the portal. So while this is running, let me take you to the code and show you how it looks. The scripts are entirely data-driven off a CSV. Here, it reads the CSV, creates groups, then it goes ahead and creates users, assigns some roles and privileges. Then it adds these users to the appropriate groups they need to be a member of. Then the script proceeds to style the portal by applying logo, banner, background, a default extent, etc. When the script finishes, I can go back to my org, refresh the administration page, and you will notice the newly created users along with their appropriate roles. I can go back to my home page, refresh, and my styling has been applied. We now have an org with users and groups. But what about content? Since there are multiple agencies involved in this event, the best way to get data across everybody, dynamic data across everybody, is through collaborations. Here I have the ArcGIS Enterprises, or Ventura, Santa Barbara. Important authoritative data sets like streets, parcels, road closures exist in this enterprise. So the next step is to establish a one-to-many collaboration between the ArcGIS Online org that we configured and these enterprises. So let us fire off our second script. And while this runs, let me walk you through the code. The script first creates a collaboration with the RGS Online as a host. During this process, it selects one of the groups that we just created earlier as the environment for sharing data. Next, it proceeds to do a series of steps, like it invites Ventura GIS as a participant. During this step, certificates get exchanged between the host and the participant, and trust is established. Then it repeats the same process for Santa Barbara GIS or any other agency that needs to be a part of this collaboration. Once the script finishes, I can go back to my org and pick the group that we chose for the collaboration, which in this case is properties at risk. And you will see data from all the agencies starts to show up. Any edits made to these layers get synchronized across all the different agencies that are participating in the collaboration. Now, we have collected data that is great for back office use for planning and strategy. But what about firefighters that are in the field? I could author a web map with Python API and share it via collector for ArcGIS. But what would be even quicker is if I can clone maps and apps that are configured for field use. So here, I have a group on RGS Online with hundreds of solution templates authored by Esri, shared publicly. I can search and pick the ones that are suitable for disaster management, and I can clone them into my org. So let us fire off our third script. Curious to see how the script looks like? If you're thinking about a complicated cloning script, you're in for a surprise. Cloning is a built-in ability with Python API. All I need to do is just specify the list of item IDs, and Python API gets these items, their full metadata, and all their dependencies and clones them into your org. It even updates the maps and apps to reflect the new URLs. So once cloning is done, I can go ahead and update these items with new title and appropriate snippet and description. Here I'm editing one of the web layers, web maps, and adding a web layer. I'm adding the fire perimeter layer obtained by analyzing satellite images in Jupyter notebooks that we just saw before the break. What have we accomplished so far? Through automation with a series of scripts, we have built an environment that provides a common operating picture for all the agencies that are involved. Next, let us see how some common and time-critical workflows can be automated with the Python API. Here I have the same web map that we just cloned. I have the fire perimeter in red, and next to it, I have the residential property parcels. My objective is, as the fire spreads, I want to quickly identify which of these properties are at immediate risk and quickly relay that information to the firefighters in the field. So let us simulate the case by editing this perimeter and bringing it close to the city of Ojai. As soon as the changes are committed, firefighters in the field get a push notification on their smart devices. Here I have my cell phone, and it just received a text message. It contains the number of houses that are at risk and a link. I can click on this link, and it automatically opens the Collector for ArcGIS app and loads the same web map. In addition, I have a layer in blue that shows the properties that are predicted to be at risk. So the firefighter can click on one of these, inspect the details, and quickly get driving directions using Navigator for ArcGIS. So the firefighter can get to these properties, make sure they are evacuated in time, and save the people from danger. Well, how did we build this? To talk more about this, back to you, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you, Atma. So what exactly did we go through in this set of workflows? The first thing that Atma did was configure the system in online, and then set up collaboration between two enterprises and online, and then went on to clone items between them so as to create a sharing environment in a distributed scenario. But if you look deeper, what happened in the dispatch scenario? There's a Python script that was monitoring changes for the fire perimeter, and then when the change occurred, invoking analysis, and as the analysis was triggered, it was also disseminating that update over to web maps and to dashboards. And beyond that, there was integration with an external system. In this case, it was Zapier, but you could have used IFTT or other notification systems like Twilio and Microsoft Flow. And that was sending the text message over to the built-in apps. But then for disadvantaged users, there's more options. In Atma's case, he does have a backup script, which basically sends it over text-to-speech conversion and then send it through radio waves, for example. So I'd like to invite you all, bring in your mission-critical workflows, and start automating systems. Thank you very much.